Hello, welcome to another community kitchen. Today we're gonna do something a little bit challenging for me right now and probably challenging for you. We're gonna look at chicken, whole chicken. Sometimes you can get it in with a good deal. Like this was $1.99 a pound. So for a whole chicken like that, about less than $8, could feed your family for a meal, definitely, maybe even more, stretch it. So I wanted to present 3 different ways that you can use a whole chicken. Alright, so you're ready to prepare your chicken. First of all, what I've done is I've prepared all my ingredients that I will need ahead of time. I don't want to be stuck halfway having to, I forgot the salt or I forgot the oil, and then having to wash all my hands before opening the cupboard and grabbing the spice or something like that, because you want to make sure when you're dealing with chicken that you're going to avoid contamination of the meat. The way we're going to do is going to be poach. The second is going to cook the whole chicken as a whole. For the third one, we're going to cut it in pieces so that cooking gets done faster. So I've prepared everything I could think of. Hopefully I have not forgotten anything. And I'm just gonna go right away with the first recipe. First of all, your hands are clean. I'm gonna wear a glove just because I have a cut on that hand that is almost completely healed, but not quite. And I wouldn't want it to get infected, and I wouldn't want the cut to infect anything. So, and always make sure your hands are clean, pulling out the whole chicken. So the first one I'm gonna do, I'm gonna drop it straight in the bucket. I make sure that this one has nothing inside. There's no giblet, liver, any parts of the chicken. So it's just a straight chicken. I'm gonna drop it in water. I put water in there, enough to cover it. In that pot, I'm gonna add with the chicken, I'm gonna add a couple of onions that I chopped in big quarters, so big chunks. Nothing needs to be chopped super small for that. Also, I have a couple of sticks of celery that I've also cut in big chunks, and a couple of carrots that I've peeled and put in there. This is just general spices. If I would have herbs like, let's say you have parsley and you keep the twigs, you can make a bundle out of the twigs and different herbs and add it to that. So this is kind of like poaching the meat. So the water's gonna boil, eventually it's gonna cook the meat, and I'm gonna see it as the meat is gonna start, the skin's gonna separate from the meat, and it's gonna be evident. It's gonna take probably a good hour and a half maybe. And the more it boils, the more the liquid in it is gonna be concentrated with more flavors coming from the chicken. And with that chicken, what I plan to do is keep the meat to make a chicken pot pie later on this week for another menu. And I'm going to use the liquid, I'm going to keep on boiling it, reduce it once I've taken the chicken out, and use that to help me make my sauce. In the summertime, sometimes it's too hot, you don't want to have the oven on to roast the chicken. That would be a good way of cooking a whole chicken when you have one. And you can keep that meat to make sandwiches, to make like chicken salad, or a hot chicken sauce. So it's a way of not heating your whole house. This is really fast. I put everything in there and put it on the stove top. I'm gonna bring it to a boil. Again, I'm gonna reduce the heat so that it keeps on simmering, so a little bit of a boil, but not big bubbly. Keep it there for at least an hour and something. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I'm gonna be taking that chicken out again. I'm gonna be stuffing it with, I've cut lemon in quarters. I'm gonna try to stuff as much lemon I can in there. In the bottom of my pan here, I've cut in big chunks an onion. That's gonna be like where I'm gonna place my chicken, just so that the chicken does not rest directly on the container, and so that there's more airflow going around. The other thing I had to think about was how sometimes like the chicken here is not string, it's not tied. Sometimes you can have chickens already tied, so it's super handy. Right now this one is not. How am I gonna hold maybe the chicken more together so that when it cooks more uniformly and not one section that's separated like the wing, and that part's gonna cook too fast compared to the center of the chicken. So the thing I came up with was to use some kebab steaks. Kebab steak. So I've got 3 of them, and I hope it's gonna be okay. We're gonna see as we go. If it's gonna do what I'm hoping it's gonna do, like hold my chicken more together. I also have for this recipe put aside a container with salt and pepper. And a little bit of poultry seasoning, just to get a little bit of flavor in there. I'm keeping that, so this one I can go with my hand, because I know that this afterwards, whatever's left in there is gonna go in the garbage, or I'm probably gonna use everything for this recipe. And in this container, I've got a little bit of oil and a little bit of thyme also. So I'm gonna use this, and in this I have chopped up garlic. So here we go, second chicken. So I'm gonna just plop it directly in my pan that I intend to cook. Pan is ready already. So you might want to look into it, like sometimes a big piece of fat. I kind of want to keep the piece of fat in there because it's gonna make it taste better. Fat is good, where I'm concerned. I'm gonna put some salt and pepper inside the cavity here. Just drop it in there, put quite a bit. I'm gonna stuff my lemons in there. See how much it comes. So I've washed and cut up my lemon. So the juice is gonna come out. It's gonna give some flavor. I'm placing those onions underneath better, and I have a bit of garlic that I'm also gonna try to stuff in there. There's different ways of doing this. I'm doing a super simple fast one. Sometimes at food bank you might get a whole chicken, and you might just need a bit of help on how to deal with this. So I just want to keep my chicken together, close the leg a little bit so nothing comes out. So I'm just gonna try to take with the skewer to kind of grab some of the skin of the leg, punch through, and just kind of hold the thing together. It kind of works. It's just like I'm sewing the chicken together. And for the hands, the little, chickens that don't have hands, for the leg, for the wings, I'm just gonna try. Don't really know how to do this. So I've soaked those skewers so they should burn. That's another thing. You don't want to have skewers that are completely dry because they're gonna burn. So I soaked them in the water while I was preparing everything. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. If it starts burning during the cooking, I'll take those out. If you don't have anything, if you don't have string or anything, just let it be. It's just gonna be a little bit cooking uneven, but it's not gonna be super bad. So I've got my chicken, so I'm gonna take a little bit of the oil and the oil and thyme mixture. I'm gonna rub that a little bit over my chicken. I'm gonna bring that chicken closer to you so you have an idea, and then put more salt and pepper in the back. Placing my onions again, making sure it's as tight as I can make it. So this chicken that didn't take me any time, but it's gonna take longer to cook. I'm gonna have it at 425 Fahrenheit in the oven for about an hour and a half. And when I think it's done, I'm gonna be checking the temperature. If you have a thermometer, you're gonna be sticking it between the thigh and the leg. You want to have the temperature at 82 Celsius or 174 Fahrenheit. So for a whole chicken, you want a higher temperature because you want to make sure that throughout the chicken, like the parts inside are also cooked at the same temperature. Also, the one thing to make sure if there's any blood coming out, that means it's not cooked enough. Put it back in the oven. Don't want to overcook it because we don't want it to get dry also. So that's my number 2. Actually, I have to wash my hands before I put it in the oven. Last chicken, this one, we're gonna attempt to cut it in pieces. You might have an appropriate knife. Today I have what we call a chef's knife, which is not really a meat carving knife. Usually the meat carving knife, the blade is going to be narrower. It come a little bit in an angle so that you can go deeper in between the bones. This is going to do, and if you only have something like that, well, maybe you can make it work, but it's going to be hard. You might just want to cook it whole. But the advantage of cooking it cut up is going to take less time to cook. But we're going to be left with parts that we might not want to just cook like that. Because we're doing another chicken that is cooking in water, poaching, we can use whatever we're not going to keep and we're going to add it to that pot. All right. So what do I start with? Probably not everybody starts with the same thing. There's probably a protocol of how to do it proper way, but I'm just gonna do what I do. I have wings here. I'm gonna try to find the juncture between the wings. I'm gonna feel where they join the bone here, and I'm going to go. You're gonna cut, you don't want to cut through bones. You're not gonna be able to do that, but you want to be able to get between the bones. The ligaments, that is what you can cut. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm kind of bending the wing until I can find where it connects with the bone, and then whoop, I found the hole in between the two bones, the connection. I know you're not, look, so right now I have a wingless chicken, still have the 2 legs. I want to cut the whole leg together. I'm going to start by cutting this section here where the skin is, tying it up just to loosen it up a little bit, so it's kind of like a pocket that creates here, really easy. And now I'm going to flip and I'm going to crunch this. I'm breaking the leg here off of the, and at this point you can see the bone sticking out here. Good, this is where I'm going to be cutting. On this side though, I want to waste less possible meat, so I'm going to be cutting as close as I can to the tailbone here, the tailbone here. I'm going to follow with my knife, follow it as close as I possibly can, and there, not too bad. So here I have the thigh, here I have the drumstick. Again, I might want to cut that into 2 pieces. You have to find the right connection, find the bone. Sometimes I find it, but just cut this a little bit, see it clearer. Here we go. Do I have it? Here we go. Then I stuck my finger in it and I could feel where the bone was. And I went in between the thigh bone and the leg bone. Same thing for the other side, in 2 parts. So I have legs, wings there. I'm stuck here with the front, which is the breast, and the back, which is possibly not what I want to. So now I'm just, you see what I'm doing? In between, I'm cutting this part, separating the front from the back. A lot of bone there. You're cutting through, separating the thoracic cage, the front and the back, and also making sure you want to separate the back, trying to keep as much skin on the front as possible. So here I have the breast. It's still, the bone is in the side there. If you want to take the bone off, that's going to be another thing. So, but I'm going to deal with the back right now. The back has some meat on the end here, like towards the derriere. There's some meat there you can cut. There's not a whole lot. There might be some chunks, if you're not used to it, you might have cut some chunks that are still pretty big that you could keep. I don't have a whole lot of meat there, so what I'm gonna do, I put it in my soup pot. So, do you see this part? I'm trying to do this. Get the bone. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start at the top of the breast here. I'm gonna take my knife, I'm gonna follow the breastbone, and I'm making a cut like that in the front, following the bone. Like the bone is my guide. This is where and then if you feel like the breastbone sticks out, like it's like a bone that is an edge in the middle of it. So I've located it here. You see the middle part that sticks out? That's the breast. I'm gonna follow the bone, just like scraping a little bit, little by little, making sure that I'm not keeping meat on the bone. And I'm scraping it so underneath I see the ribs, and I'm just following it. On the top you'll have what they call the wishbone, the collarbone. And that's a little, sometimes you can just, sometimes they might stay like, at this point, collarbone in this case stayed in the middle. Sometimes you might, the way you cut it, you cut through it as it's in your breast, that's fine. Just make sure you pull it out before serving. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, just following the bone. So I have the breastbone, so it's boneless, and I'm just gonna cut it to make 2 portions out of it, maybe something like that. The reason I'm doing that is because now all my pieces that are cut are basically the same size, and they will take the same amount of time to cook, roughly. So this is gonna go in my soup pot later. 2, so I can't just throw my chicken like that, I need some spice. I just decided to make something a little bit different. In this container I have salt, onion powder, garlic powder, a bit of rosemary, paprika, and that's about it, I think. And I'm gonna add salt and pepper from the other one, so I'm just gonna add a bit of salt and pepper to my pieces. Some of this other spice. All right, and then I'll add a little bit of that oil here. So I'm not wasting that oil too. So this recipe, I'm putting my wings in the middle of the pan when I'm cooking it because it's going to take less time to cook, and the side cooks faster. So putting the breast and the other piece there, I'm gonna put that, so probably 40 minutes, I would say for sure. At 30 minutes I'll start looking at it. When you see that the bone and the skin are detaching, that the juices are clear, you can also check temperature. When it's in pieces like that, you can look for 74 degrees Celsius, and so a little bit lower, because you know it's in pieces, so there's no interior where you can't check the temperature. So pieces is 74 degrees, whole chicken 82 degrees. So that's it. Remember, after working with chicken, there's a danger of salmonella contamination, so make sure you wash all your dishes in hot soapy water. You rinse them in the hot water. You can also afterwards, if you want to sanitize your cutting board, you can use a solution of water and bleach. A liter of water for 2 teaspoons of bleach in a spray bottle. So you can also spray your counter after you're done cleaning it. So you have to clean it before. Don't start with bleaching it before you have to take all the fats and food off of the surface before sanitizing actually makes sense and is effective. Also remember to wash your sink. Throw the rags you've used to wash your sink and your counter into the laundry. So we saw 3 ways of cooking chicken: a whole chicken, poaching, roasting whole, cutting in pieces and roasting. Try one of those things. Maybe you have your own recipe, a family recipe that you'd like to share. Thanks, see you next time.